Bright Spark School India is a UK charity serving a shanty town on the outskirts of Chandigarh in northern India. It's a primary school for 100 to 120 children across 5 classes, and there's also a small kindergarten group. We also support some of the students on their pathways beyond, in fact, all of the students really, on their pathways beyond our primary school. So we currently fund 20 students at Mohali Public School, which is an NGO school. We also sponsor 1 student at Chandigarh University. We'll hear more about him in a minute. And over 20 years, we've supported over 500 pupils to come through Bright Sparks. So here you can see the shanty town. They used to be called slums, but that word became too stigmatizing. Locally, it's called the colony. You can see it's not the greatest of environments. Most families live in single-room, self-built homes. So what is the problem that we are trying to address? 10% of urban children, 15% of rural children in India do still not go to school. That's around 30 to 40 million children who are essentially destined to become illiterate. They work as domestic servants, rickshaw drivers, fruit sellers, very uncertain futures. We heard from someone locally on the ground recently that a lot of these young people anyway, I'll come on to that, sorry. Well, why isn't the Punjabi Education Board and the Indian government fixing the problem? When I first got involved with this charity 20 years ago, I believed it was a 15-year journey and then we would close up and everything would be solved because the Indian government would be fixing the problem. They are trying, but it's not working yet. There are free government schools. However, they exclude children who don't have ID. Most of our children have no birth certificate. They're not on the records. The government schools will also exclude children who are late or who are absent for periods of time. Many of our children will disappear during harvest time to go back to the villages that their families have come from to do the harvest. Some of our children do have jobs on their way into school. They'll be calling in to do some work as a domestic servant. It's not ideal, but they would be excluded from a mainstream school for doing that. Also, in the government schools, children can be beaten, and those from the shanty towns will be treated often as second-class citizens. So what is the solution? 20 years ago, Gail, a good friend of mine, was volunteering in a women's refuge. She couldn't square with the fact that one of the cleaner was a small boy and paid for him to go to independent school. Next day, his brother came to claim the job. She got her father to sponsor the brother, and over the course of her 2-month stay there, she got 10 children sponsored. When she came back the year after to visit the children, she realized they were being treated as second-class citizens. She saw a child being hit. That's where the school really started. She paid for a teacher and a classroom, and Bright Sparks was born. What we do, we offer a high-quality education in 3 languages, Hindi, Punjabi, and English. We do computer skills classes. We do a homework club for our former pupils. When the kids leave our school, they stay in connection with us. It's a sort of lifetime community journey. We support them into secondary education. For most of them, that will be going back into the government system. We currently support 20 in the independent system. And we support with voluntary courses and progression routes. So our kids really, really love to learn. They really, really love to be at school. There's absolutely no moaning about school from these children. We provide snacks, vitamins, dental and health checks. This is the kids washing their hands before lunch. And our teachers use local government standing teaching materials. That's the books you can see on the table there. And it means that the qualifications that they get are standardized across the statutory sector. Here are 2 classes using the same large space. We welcome Hindu, Muslim, Sikh and Christian children. Most of them are Hindu, to be fair. This is our alumni. We are currently sponsoring 20 young people through Mohali Public School. In most cases, they'll have an individual sponsor that we've matched them to. And this is Suraj. So Suraj is our poster boy. He's in his 4th year of computer studies at Chandigarh University, which is a top 30 university in India. He's acing it. He's getting 80% plus in his grades. And he sent me that picture on WhatsApp last week where his team had just won the chess championship. So Bright Sparks is supporting a community to develop itself out of poverty. Our teachers, they go to the shanty town, they encourage the families to send their children to school, and that's one of the most important things they do. They follow those children through primary into secondary, and they work to stop them being married, when the girls, when they're 12, 13, which would mark an end to their education. And that does happen to quite a lot of the young girls, sadly. Our current challenge, there's one local donor in India that pays the rent. That's not a sustainable model. Pupils were recently locked out over a rental dispute. They were sent, this was sent to me about 2 months ago. They spent 2 hours on the front of the school. Costs are rising locally. Ooh, no. Costs are rising locally, with the poorer people disproportionately affected. We need to raise more funds locally in India. We need to look at the longer term picture, and we need to raise more funds here in the UK. So what support are we asking you from today? We would like to employ an agent in India, like an estate agent, to go and look at options to buy or build, to buy the premises we're in, or to buy or build an alternative premises. That will cost about £1,500. Money goes a long way in India. There's a multiple of 10 in terms of how much further your funds can go. We want to launch a capital fund, so we're hoping to raise £6,000 tonight towards that, which we will match with £6,000 from our reserves. That will underwrite the possibility of the local donor not being able to support the rent, and it will also start a fund which, if buying a premises or building a premises becomes viable, we'll work towards that. And the third and really important thing is to employ a local fundraiser in India, 12 months of their salary, to really start bringing in resources there. In India, there's a law where companies have to give 1% of their profits to charities, and we want to be able to benefit from that. So any help you can offer is going to be really greatly appreciated, securing this school for this and the next generation.
Does anybody have a question for Tim? I hope you can still hear me.
Hello.
Are you stimulating other schools like yours?
Yeah, we do talk to lots of other, there's not that many schools like ours in the area we're in, but we do have relationships with others. In fact, yeah. And the secondary as well, Mohali Public School, we're very much supportive of them because they're another NGO. And by paying for 20 students to go there, we're helping to underwrite that school's model as well.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Could anybody waiting for a question, could you make sure that you get a microphone? Because there's an online audience that can't hear your question otherwise. So sorry for that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Are you hoping that more students will get to the university level? You've not been going so many years, but have you got some tending that way?
Yeah, we would love to put more through. It was a bit of an anomaly with Suraj because it's quite expensive putting him through in terms of the funding that we have and that we spend. And I found 5 angel donors to fund Suraj through university. We actually thought he was going to get a funded place. He started on the course with us having paid the deposit and then didn't get the funding, and that's where I found 5 people who committed to 4 years. But it's quite a significant commitment, and it's quite a small charity. We wouldn't be able to fund that many, and it'd have to be funded by individuals, the actual higher education level. But absolutely, we want the best for these kids, so that's our long-term goal.
Yeah, hi Tim, thanks. That's a really interesting project. Can you just say a little bit more about how you select children to go into your school? Because clearly you offer a fantastic model, and I imagine it's quite competitive.
Yes, so it's a lot about the teachers going into the colony and talking to families and word of mouth in the colony, and siblings are accepted as a priority because it's easier when you've got one family on board. It's actually it's a journey of convincing people that education is worth it when for those families, they're on such small incomes that they have to juggle whether they put their child in school or they have them selling fruit on the side of the road. So it's more about building relationships and convincing people that it's a valuable thing. The parents are all illiterate, basically, of the children. So that's the work that our teachers do.
Thank you. Just a quick one, really. You're working in one village.
one part of one town?
It's Mohali, which is a district of Chandigarh.
Okay, that the model you've got clearly could be scaled. Is there any hope that at some stage you'll be able to scale this operation and take it to other places?
It's a really interesting question. It's not something we've considered. We've been evolving over the years, I'd say quite rapidly for us. We're completely volunteer led in the UK. And yeah, I mean, right now our thing is about stabilizing the school and trying to make sure that it's secure. If we got to the point where it was secure, and it's not at the moment, then I think it'd be really interesting to look at what we've achieved, how that model is. I think what's really interesting for us also is that local fundraising. If we can change the support system locally and access corporate funds to underwrite the school model, then we can shout about that and try and get that replicated in other places.
Rosanna, how are we for time? Great. Any questions over here? There's one, yeah.
Yeah, the majority, about 80% of our children will go on to secondary, and the majority of those will go into the state system. And it wasn't like that 10 years ago. It would have been the minority. So it's been an evolving kind of process, really.
Have we got time for one more? Yeah, brilliant. Oh, there's a question. Okay, question in the front here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Very impressive. A quick question. What support do you exactly provide? You mentioned the school premises that you provide. What about the teacher cost, salaries, or
Yes.
food for the pupils?
So there are 7 teachers, including the head teacher. It's a sort of like a 7-day school. So at the weekends and in the evenings, that's where the alumni, if you like, but those going on to secondary, they don't have spaces to do homework at home. So, and in terms of sort of healthcare, we don't provide lunches. They have to bring their own lunches, but then we have snacks because some of the kids turn up with no food and we want to make sure that everyone eats something. So that has to be balanced. We would love to provide lunches. It's a thing that comes up every so often. We know that they're so stretched, and it's, yeah, in the future, that's the thing we'd like to do. I mean, yes, there is a sort of indicative school uniform, and I mean, I don't know if you could, yeah, there is. I mean, like all things, we're very flexible, so we don't exclude the kids for anything. So, and we recognise that some of them won't have the means to have exactly what we indicate they should be wearing, but there is a school uniform code, and yeah.